What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Teixeira versus Evans. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Zildia Dos Santos versus Omar Akhmedov. And I think Omar is the better grappler overall. Dos Santos is probably the better striker. But I feel like this is probably going to be Omar getting takedowns, and he'll probably get a submission. This will probably end in the first round. I just feel like the grappling is really lopsided. Dos Santos has a lot of submission losses. And I just feel like that's probably what's going to happen. It'll probably be first round rear naked choke. Next is Cesar Ferreira versus Olawag Bampos. And I'm going to pick Olawag. I think that Cesar Ferreira's his chin's just gone already. He keeps on getting knocked out really early in the first round. And as we saw in Olawag's last fight, he's a really great striker. I feel like he's probably going to be able to sell the takedown and land a big punch. Probably just win the first minute or two. Next is Drew Dober versus Islam Makashvili. And I'm going to pick Islam. I feel like Drew Dober is probably a little bit better of a striker, but I feel like Ismail's got the better grappling. And I think that even though Ismail got knocked down in his last fight, he was fighting that Brazilian dude who I think is super underrated. He's like 6-1 in the UFC right now. I forget his name, but Ismail, I think, is still a really solid prospect, and I think he'll eventually be able to get this fight to the ground and win by submission. Next is Randy Brown versus Michael Graves. Randy Brown's the guy from the Looking for a Fight, the black dude who looks decent. And then Michael Graves is on the Ultimate Fighter. He looks decent too, but I think they're trying to give Randy Brown some easy fights, build him up to be kind of like Sage Northcutt, even though I think he's better than Sage Northcutt at this point. I'll pick Randy Brown. I say he probably wins by either decision or late finish in the third. Next is John Dodson versus Manvel Gambarian, and I feel like once again they're kind of just throwing Dodson in an easy fight to make his debut at 35. I think he'll probably win by knockout or TKO. Manvel Gambarian just doesn't fight very often. I feel like at this point he's just doing it for fun. I'm not saying he isn't a good fighter. I just feel like he only fights like once or twice a year at this point in his career, and Dodson's still top 15. So I feel like Dodson will probably win by knockout pretty early. Next is Cub Swanson versus Hackman Diaz, and this fight could go either way. It's kind of like striker versus grappler. I'm going to give the slight edge to Swanson. I think he might be able to get a finish late, or he'll be able to get a decision. But still, I think Hackman Diaz, he could definitely take this fight to the ground and just hold Cub down. But it's really close because it depends how far Cub Swanson's gone at this point, because he is kind of on a losing streak and he hasn't looked that great in his last couple losses. But I still think he's decent, and he'll probably be able to pull out a decision. Next is Court McGee versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. And with Court McGee, it's weird because he's fought once in the last 2 years. And even though that wasn't that long ago, I just feel like he doesn't look as good as he used to. Just too much time off. As where Santiago Ponzinibbio has been looking better and better. Even in that loss to Lorenz Larkin, I thought he looked great. I feel like Ponzinibbio's probably got the edge in striking. McGee's got the edge in wrestling. It's really tight, but I'm going to pick Ponzinibbio to win by TKO. A lot of really tight fights in this card. I mean, really, I think a lot of these fights could go either way, more so than a lot of the other cards, but I'm going to pick Ponzinibbio. I say he wins by TKO. Next is Betch Kohara versus Raquel Pennington, and both these chicks have kind of the same style. They're kind of strikers with some grappling. I think Kohara's probably a little bit better. Not Kohara, but I think Raquel is a little bit better of a grappler overall, but I think that she's super inconsistent. Her record's 6-5. She really alternates wins and losses all the time. And as where Betch Kohara's, 9-1, her only loss is Ronda Rousey, and I feel like the consistency versus the inconsistency, it's always better to go with whoever's consistent, so I'm going to pick Betch to win by decision. Next is Beneil Dariush versus Michael Chiesa, and I feel like Beneil Dariush, it's really weird because I feel like he's really good and really shitty at the exact same time. I don't really know how else to describe it. He just does not feel like a top 15 guy for some reason. It's probably because in his debut fight, he lost to Ramsey Ninja by knockout. So, I mean, he's definitely gotten better since then, but I thought he lost that fight to Michael Johnson. I don't know. He just... And I know what is it? He's Israeli, so he goes over there to be a military person half the time, so he's not even training full time. And it just feels like he, at any point in time, he could be not as well prepared for a fight as he usually is. So I'll pick Chiesa. I feel like he's on the rise, and Beneil Dariush is just too iffy in my personal opinion with his training and everything. So I'm gonna pick Chiesa to win by TKO. Next is Rose Namajunas versus Tisha Torres, and I don't think this fight's going to be any different than their first fight. I think that both of them are about the same level they were when they first fought, and I think Tisha Torres is going to stuff takedowns and just outstrike her for 3 rounds and win by decision. It's going to be a boring Tisha Torres fight where it's the same shit. She's just really good at stuffing takedowns and really lighting people up with her technical karate, but not getting a finish. So I got Tisha Torres winning 30-27 decision. Next is Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Daryl Hoover. Daryl Hoover, good job for him for taking this fight on such short notice, but he's going to get submitted early, quickly, easily. Khabib, with this win, it's basically just to say he's won 8 straight. Let's give him the title shot. I mean, it was supposed to be Khabib and Tony Ferguson, which would have been a really great fight. I think that fight could have went either way. But with this, it's going to be lopsided. Khabib's going to hit a takedown super early and win by submission. And then he'll fight RDA, who's already beaten, so I think he'll win the belt later this year. But I'm pick Khabib to win by first round rear naked choke or something. Next is Lyoto Machida versus Dan Henderson. And I think these guys are both at the same point in their career where even though Machida's still top 5, he still hasn't looked very good in his last, I think he's on a 2 or 3 fight losing streak. So I don't know how he's in the top 5 still, I'm just saying. Dan Henderson has also been alternating wins and losses. But I thought Dan Henderson won the first fight. I think this is actually a good stylistic matchup for Dan Henderson. I know it was a super close fight and a lot of people had it 50-50, but I just feel like Machida's a little bit farther along than Dan is at this point, in my opinion. And I think Dan will probably get a split decision win for him in this one. Still a really close fight. I think both these guys are pretty much in the last 4 or 5 fights of their career, though. Next is Glover Teixeira versus Rashad Evans, and this fight makes no sense in my honest opinion. I feel like Glover Teixeira has already beaten Ryan Bader, who beat Rashad. This is basically just... It was supposed to be Shogun versus Rashad, which would have been awesome. But at this point, Glover is just going to fucking devour Rashad. I mean, I think we've already seen that Rashad's just not... injuries have built up, and he's older at this point. He's just not at that level anymore. And I'm not saying it's not because he isn't good enough. I think it's just age and injuries. I don't think he is as explosive with his takedowns anymore, and I don't think his boxing is as crisp as it used to be. I think, he's only fought one time in the last, 2 years, and that was against Ryan Bader, and he lost decision. So, and Ryan Bader is not the power puncher Teixeira is, so this fight's going to be a one-sided ass whooping, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure Glover's probably going to win by first-round knockout. It's just unfortunate. I think if this was Shogun versus Rashad, it would have been an amazing fight, but it's not. So I'll pick Glover to win by first round knockout. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.